Hello, welcome. We're going to learn the Camera Raw workflow. Alright, so here I am in Photoshop. I have this MB button, which means mini bridge. Open that and I want to grab a photo. And the first thing we do whenever we edit in Photoshop is we bring it into Camera Raw first. So how do we do that? We right click on the picture and we say Open in Camera Raw. Okay, that is actually a part of the Photoshop. It's part of Photoshop. It's called Camera Raw. All right, and the beauty of it is there's all these sliders that make editing go so easy, and there's these tools up here, and it's non-destructive editing. So I'm limited to my space here, so I'm gonna have to move this thing around. First thing is this: when you come in, first thing you do is you go to white balance. You just start working your way down. And the first thing you do is you try auto. And you say, hey, how does that change things? Okay. Well, I have a human here, and skin tone usually wants to be warmed up, almost always. So I'm not a big fan of auto. You try it there. In this shot, I don't really like it, so I'm going to go to as shot, and I'm going to take my temperature slider, and I'm going to warm it up a teeny bit. Okay. Notice how I'm getting these reds? That is coming from right up here in the histogram. You have this triangle here and a triangle here. Okay? That's your highlight warning. When you have it clicked, you should leave it on because it shows you when things are getting blown out. On the left side, when you click that, it'll show you when things are getting blown out on the darks. Too dark. So we'll deal with that later. First thing is white balance. Get the right color temperature first. So I'm going to warm it up a little bit. I almost never have to use the tint unless there's some weird color cast going on, but this one there really isn't. So I'm not even going to touch that. Exposure is one now that you use to control the brightness or darkness of the whole photo. Okay, so I'm going to just move it back and forth. The whole key is experiment. So I'm looking at what looks good, really. So that looks pretty nice right there. And it tells me if I go too bright, look at how those reds start popping in. That means you're going too far. I say, okay, I'll back it off to about right there. That looks pretty nice. Now, to get rid of the reds, you use your recovery slider. You drag that up until they disappear. And sometimes you have to drag recovery all the way, and that's okay. Alright, that's one slider. If you drag it all the way, it doesn't matter. Now, next one is fill light. Fill light controls the shadow details in the front. So if I add my fill light in, watch what happens. See the shadow detail starts to pop, which is nice on the dog. Okay, so I'll drag that up a little bit. The problem with fill light is often when you drag that up, you have to bring your blacks up as well. So just be aware of that. You don't want to go too far on fill light or you're going to get a whacked out image. So always keep it very subtle. And then your blacks, if you have a photo that's washed out, you use your blacks to bring back those darks and saturate those colors. It looks awesome. Alright, that looks great with the blacks. Good. And brightness is another name for the brightness slider is the sky slider. So I have a little bit of sky showing. If I drag it to the left now, it would darken that sky. Okay? It's a mid-tone, controls your mid-tones. Alright, so you already controlled the brightness up here when you did exposure. So you don't really ever need to use the brightness slider, really. Okay? So usually I just skip over that unless I have a sky and I want to darken it. But look at what I want to just darken the sky, not the whole photo. Okay? So I'm going to leave that there and I'll darken the sky later. Contrast, almost never use this slider. Why? Because there's a better way. The second tab in here will cover that on the next tutorial.